Before I get into my thoughts on Love Island USA Season 7, I want to start this video off by being completely transparent. I was actually really nervous to make this. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I usually talk about cartoons, TV shows, and movies. I love doing character analysis and deep dives into plots and the deeper messages within these stories. And I try to stay away from discussing reality TV because it's a bit different. The people in these reality shows aren't fictional characters. They aren't just playing out a script. They're real people with real emotions. And while sometimes producers might encourage certain narratives to move the story along, at the end of the day, these are real humans. That's why I tend to stay away from topics like this, because as an empathetic person, it's hard for me to speak on people's actions or personalities without it feeling like judging or attacking them. And that's never my intention. But honestly, I think it's that same empathy that made me feel so strongly about some of the things I saw on this season of Love Island USA. I found myself really feeling for certain islanders, especially when I saw how harshly some of them were and still are being treated online, while others who weren't necessarily more deserving received nothing but praise. It made me realize that conversations around topics like racism, colorism, featureism, and the quote-unquote angry black woman stereotype are not only important, but necessary. So in this video, I'm going to dive into some of the most notable moments from Season 7 and share my perspective. I just ask that as you watch this video, you try to listen with the intent to understand, even if you don't agree. These topics can be a bit uncomfortable, but I think that's exactly why it's worth talking about. I think we're all familiar with the drama surrounding Chelley, Olandria, and Huda. It's literally everywhere, especially on TikTok. Everyone is sharing their opinions from left to right. And honestly, I was really surprised to see some people's perspectives on these ladies. The way so many people villainize Chelley and Olandria, while simultaneously praising Huda like she was an innocent bystander, caught me completely off guard. I literally had to stop and ask myself, are we watching the same show? Because there's just no way that people are calling Chelley and Olandria bullies and completely ignoring how manipulative Huda was throughout the entire season. But then I had to remind myself that unfortunately this is the type of world that we live in. This is a society that constantly punishes black women, especially dark-skinned black women, for expressing themselves instead of staying quiet. A society that expects us to just sit there, take whatever is thrown at us, and smile through it. Because the moment we speak up, even politely, we're suddenly aggressive, rude, or doing too much. Meanwhile, non-black women, in this case Huda, can crash out, act emotionally reckless, be disrespectful, and somehow it's seen as funny and relatable. So many people are making excuses for this grown woman not being able to regulate her emotions. But let a black woman like Olandria kindly tell someone to stop doing something that's making her uncomfortable, and she's suddenly someone to be scared of. She's suddenly the problem. And that's exactly what played out in this season. So of course, the reaction from majority of the viewers wasn't surprising, but it's definitely disappointing. Because a lot of people have unknowingly trained themselves to see the world this way. They've internalized these harmful, racist narratives without even realizing it. And now they're projecting those same biases onto Chelley and Olandria while excusing everything Huda did. And that's insane to me. The black women on this show, Chelley and Olandria, were made out to be villains. Even though, if you really watch, they didn't display even a fraction of the toxicity and manipulative behavior that Huda showed. And somehow, she's the one being praised, uplifted, and rewarded. From the moment I started watching this season, I could clearly see the red flags and how Huda moved. And it only got worse as time went on. Huda is a manipulator, period. And the worst part is that she weaponized her tears to make herself look like a victim. And that's scary. Because when she does that, she's not just crying. She's pulling on the heartstrings of viewers who are already conditioned to view black women as intimidating. Her tears become a way to shift the narrative, decenter Chelley and Olandria's feelings, and make it seem like they're the aggressors when that couldn't be further from the truth. There are two specific moments that really highlights this for me. The first one was during the early recoupling when Taylor stood up for the opportunity to pursue someone other than Olandria. This moment was already awkward and a little bit embarrassing for Olandria. And instead of letting it be what it was, Huda felt the need to insert herself and start making these unnecessary out loud comments, trying to be supportive or whatever. But in reality, she was doing too much. Olandria very politely told her that they would talk about it later. She wasn't rude. She just respectfully let her know that now wasn't the time. But somehow, that turned into Huda getting emotional and crying like she'd just been attacked. Her whole facial expression changed instantly, and later she turned on the tears and made it seem like Olandria did something so terrible to her. And because Olandria is a dark-skinned black woman, people automatically viewed her as the aggressor, when she was literally just setting a boundary. That's how fast the switch happens. Huda knows exactly what she's doing. Those tears weren't coming from a place of confusion or sadness, they're strategic. It was given, let me flip this situation before they start holding me accountable, and it worked. In an interview with Keke Palmer, Chelley and Olandria spoke openly about how hard it was to exist in that space as dark-skinned black women, constantly having to water themselves down, walk on eggshells, and make sure that their every move didn't come across as too much just to avoid being seen as aggressive. That is real life for so many black women. That interview validated what so many of us already knew, but seeing them talk about it so openly just confirmed how deep these problems really goes. And what's sad is that so many people chose not to hear them. They chose to ignore it like it's not happening right in front of their faces. The second big moment where Huda weaponized her tears was after the heart rate challenge. In my opinion, she definitely took it too far dancing on Ace. Yes, it was a challenge, and yes, it was expected to be sexy and flirty. But at this point in the season, it was clear that Chelley and Ace were starting to build a strong connection. Everyone in the villa could see it. And on top of that, Huda knew how Chelley felt about Ace. Chelley told her. So this wasn't a case of, oh, I didn't know. She knew, and she still chose to cross the line. And that's what makes this even more frustrating. Because earlier in the season, Huda was crying over Jeremiah and acting like everyone in the villa owed her something. Chelley and all the other women respected her boundaries. None of the women who were already in the villa went after Jeremiah. Even though it was literally just a couple days into the show, so it didn't make sense for her to be that possessive, they still gave her respect. So where is that same energy when it comes to Chelley and Ace? I'm not saying that Huda couldn't interact with Ace during the challenge, but there's a difference between doing the challenge and going overboard. And the way that she danced on him was overboard. Chelley had every right to be upset, and I actually think that she handled it with a lot of maturity. She simply told Huda that she needed space and didn't want to talk when she was still emotional, which is completely valid. She even told her "I love you" before walking away, which in all honesty, she did not have to do. That's what true grace and maturity looks like. And yet again, Huda made herself to be the victim. She cried and she said, "I think Chelley's mad at me. Do you think I went too far?" Like, girl, yes, you went too far. And you knew you went too far because you admitted it right after the challenge. But instead of owning up to it, she wanted someone to reassure her and make her feel better about being messy. That's manipulation. She knew exactly what she was doing. Huda is not a dumb girl. Like, for real, she's really smart. She just chooses to play dumb when it's convenient for her. She pretends like she doesn't understand when she crosses a line. But the second someone tries to call her out, especially a black woman like Chelley or Olandria, she starts crying. And suddenly, she's the one that needs protection. It's a toxic cycle. And the reason it continues is because nobody around her truly holds her accountable. And even worse, she has a fan base that refuses to see any faults in her actions. They ride for her blindly. And I just don't get it, because being a fan of someone doesn't mean you have to make an excuse for every little thing they do. If you really care about someone, you would want them to grow. You would want them to be better. And that starts with holding them accountable. There's a reason that Huda gets away with the things that she does, while Chelley and Olandria are flooded with hate. And honestly, it's because of racism. Look at the comments online. Look at how people are reacting. Chelley and Olandria are receiving a wave of racist, colorist, and dehumanizing comments, while Huda is coddled and called misunderstood. The same people who call Chelley intimidating and Olandria aggressive are the ones who call Huda relatable. Like, do y'all hear yourselves? This whole situation highlights just how poorly society views black women, especially dark-skinned women. Also, how far people are willing to go to villainize them while excusing the exact same or even worse behavior from others. It's literally unfair and exhausting. And it's not something that we should have to keep tolerating. Nobody deserves to be bullied. Nobody deserves to be disrespected for simply speaking up. But this pattern will continue in society and in media until people start listening. Until they start holding everyone to the same standard and unlearning these deeply rooted harmful biases. I could tell from the very beginning that Taylor was not physically attracted to Olandria. It was all in his body language. I remember watching the show with my sister and telling her over and over again that I don't think he's into her. And at first, she didn't see it. But later on, she was like, yeah, you were right. Because once Clark came into the villa, Taylor became a totally different person. The way he lit up around Clark, the way he was constantly touching her, all smiley and giggly, it was a complete 180 from how he acted with Olandria. And that right there confirmed everything that I've been saying. It honestly felt like throughout the season, Taylor was settling for Olandria. Like he was just rolling with it because everyone else already found their person in a way, and Olandria was the one who was actively pursuing him. And since he wanted to stay on the show, he figured, well, this works for now. But you can see he was trying to force that attraction. It felt like he was trying to convince himself that he liked her more than he actually did. And also, there was a comment that really solidified that theory for me. It was super quick, but he said something along the lines of, personality-wise, Olandria is great, but physically, I don't know. And I understand you're not going to be attracted to everyone. But what's not okay is not expressing that to the person that you're supposed to be building a connection with. Olandria had no idea. From her perspective, she probably thought that Taylor was a slow burner, like her, and maybe wasn't super touchy. But obviously, all of that went out of the window when Clark showed up. He immediately started doing everything Olandria had been asking for. And I just kept wondering, like, why didn't Olandria try to pursue any of the other guys in the villa? Like, seriously. And I mean, like, outside of the challenges. Taylor was giving the bare minimum, if that. He wasn't initiating anything. But Olandria was riding hard for him. She had that my man, my man, my man energy, even when it wasn't being reciprocated. And the whole time, I was watching like, girl, what are you seeing in him that I'm not? But I genuinely think that she was stuck on the idea of wanting a cowboy, a country type man, and Taylor fit that mold. So she overlooked everything else that wasn't working in the connection. Then when Jalen came into the villa and was actually showing genuine interest in her, being thoughtful, putting in effort, and doing way more than Taylor ever did, she wasn't feeling him. But I get it, at that point she was already emotionally invested into Taylor, so she had tunnel vision. But it was definitely frustrating to watch because Jalen was giving her what she deserved, in my opinion. And what really got me is how Taylor started to act jealous when Jalen was around Olandria. But to me, it wasn't about his feelings, it was about control. I don't think Taylor was jealous because he actually liked Olandria or didn't want to see her with anyone else. I think he was actually just scared that she might find a real connection with someone else, which would mean he would be left out cold. Because realistically, at this point in the season, Olandria was his ticket to stay in the villa. And let's be honest, if she found something real with Jalen, she probably would have dumped Taylor and that would have been it for him. But even knowing that, Taylor still never fully put in the effort. He didn't nurture the connection with Olandria and he didn't pursue her. Ace literally had to beg him on multiple occasions to stop doing the bare minimum. But the moment Clark walked into that villa, no one had to coach him or push him to show effort. Suddenly, Taylor was Mr. Romantic, with flowers, physical touch, eye contact. He was the whole package because he actually liked her, physically and emotionally. And again, I'm not saying Taylor is wrong for not being attracted to Olandria, but he was wrong for not being upfront about it. He dragged her along and kept her emotionally invested and basically waited until someone he actually was into showed up. And then he jumped ship. Olandria did not deserve that. Taylor knew exactly what he was doing. And it was honestly so hard to watch her go through that because she was always so kind. She was poised and she respected him, even when he didn't deserve it. And now, let me just say this. I don't think Clark was wrong at all. She's a beautiful woman just like Olandria. She walked into the villa, saw someone she liked, and she went for it. And that's the entire point of being a bombshell. The backlash Clark received wasn't fair. People were blaming her for a situation that realistically Taylor created. Clark didn't steal anyone's man. Taylor made that decision on his own. And since we're on this topic, let's talk about the Stand on Business challenge. Olandria got a lot of criticism when it came to Taylor, but genuinely, I feel like her feelings were valid. This girl stood beside him the entire season. She sent Jalen home when she could have had a real solid connection with him. She communicated with Taylor, reassured him, gave him space and grace, and she kept it real with him from day one. He had every opportunity to do the same, but he just didn't. Imagine being told one thing, then seeing another thing play out right in front of your face. He told her that he wanted to explore both connections, but in reality, he'd already chosen Clark. He just didn't have the guts to tell Olandria directly. So when Olandria finally spoke up in that challenge, it was because she was tired, and that's valid. That's exactly what the challenge was for. People want to call her bitter, but I honestly think she's just standing on business, finally after being played on national TV. And while we're here, I want to address something else that really bothered me. The way people talk about Olandria's looks online. People calling her ugly and saying that she's too masculine, like what? That's honestly one of the most ridiculous and harmful things I've ever seen. Olandria has a diamond-shaped face, a defined jawline, and high cheekbones. That's not masculine. She literally has a face structure that people pay for. She has a similar facial structure to Angelina Jolie, who by the way has been voted one of the most sexiest women alive multiple times. And society would never call Angelina Jolie ugly or masculine. So why is it that Olandria, a dark-skinned black woman, is being picked apart for having the same exact facial structure? It's because of racism and featureism, and it's all rooted in anti-blackness. Society has been conditioned to only see Eurocentric features as beautiful. And when a black woman walks into a room with bold, striking features, it's suddenly too much. It's always too masculine, too harsh, too aggressive. It's exhausting. Olandria is beautiful, period. Now, when it comes to Nic and Olandria, I'm one of those people who felt like their relationship was kind of forced, especially when it first started towards the end of the season. But don't get me wrong, they look great together. And from what we've seen since the show ended, it does seem like they truly built something solid. But honestly, on the show, I don't know. It just didn't feel like something that was being built naturally in the way that the other connections were. In my opinion, it felt like Nic was always more physically attracted to Olandria than she was to him. And that's not to say that she didn't like him at all. I just feel like she had to talk herself into seeing him in that way, especially after she started hearing what the public thought, and even after her mom gave her the stamp of approval. It's almost as if the outside validation is what nudged her into giving him a real shot. I honestly just think Olandria always viewed Nic as a friend. Like, yes, she was attracted to him, but he was always the sweet, funny guy in the villa that she was cool with, not someone that she considered romantically, at least not at first. On the other hand, Nic clearly had a crush on Olandria from day one. You can tell just from the way that he would light up around her, or how quick he was to kiss her during challenges. But the thing is, it almost felt as if he saw her as this untouchable fantasy, like someone that he wanted but didn't know if he could actually get. It kind of felt like he friend-zoned himself, and that's honestly why I think he pivoted towards Sierra. Sierra was more in his comfort zone. She made the first move, she pulled him for a chat, kissed him, and showed genuine interest in him early on. So Nic settled for Sierra probably because she felt like the safer option. And just to be clear, I don't mean settle in a shady way. I just mean that she was the one that made him feel wanted right away. So it made sense that he gravitated towards that. And eventually, I do think that he developed true feelings for Sierra. I don't doubt that what Nic and Sierra had was genuine. But I also don't doubt that what Nic and Olandria have now is real too. Feelings can absolutely grow over time, especially when there's already a strong friendship underneath it. From watching the show though, I really don't think Olandria would have explored anything romantic with Nic if the opportunity hadn't opened up towards the end. She was so locked in on Taylor for most of the season and had tunnel vision. Nobody else stood a chance at getting her attention while she was focused on him. So in a way, I think that the situation had to play out in the way that it did in order for Olandria to be open to Nic. And I really feel like that's where fate stepped in. Because even though the connection felt a little last minute, it's clear that Nic liked her from the very beginning. And they built a solid friendship over time, something that the audience saw and appreciated. And honestly, the best long-lasting relationships come from strong friendships. So even though I feel like their romance was a little rushed and forced in the villa, I can't be mad at the outcome. I'm honestly just happy to see Olandria happy. She made it so clear that she's been single for 5 years and was really looking to find something real. She walked into that villa thinking that she knew exactly what she wanted, but life had other plans. She ended up with someone who actually cherishes her, is affectionate, sees her beauty, and treats her like the queen that she is. So yeah, maybe it wasn't fireworks in the beginning, but the spark that they have now is undeniable. Love Island USA Season 7 honestly brought up a lot of mixed emotions for me. On one hand, I enjoy seeing the challenges and the unexpected plot twist, but on the other hand, this season really puts a spotlight on some deeper issues that go beyond just who's coupling with who. Watching how Chelley and Olandria were cheated by the cast and by the viewers was honestly exhausting. Because it's not just about a reality show. It's about how society as a whole still treats black women, especially dark-skinned black women. The way that Huda was allowed to move through the villa unchecked, manipulating, disrespecting boundaries, weaponizing her tears, and somehow still walked away with being seen as this misunderstood sweetheart, while Chelley and Olandria got painted as villains is frustrating and triggering. Because that's a reflection of how black women are viewed in real life. It's like the moment that we set a boundary, express our emotions, or stand up for ourselves, even if it's in the most respectful way, we're labeled as aggressive or intimidating. And when a non-black woman cries, it's all she's just emotional. And when they act messy, it's she's just passionate. And we're expected to just sit around and smile through it. And then with Taylor, that situation was just so disappointing. Olandria poured so much energy into someone that gave her the bare minimum at best. And it was so clear that he was sticking around because it was convenient. The second someone had actually walked in, he switched up without hesitation. And watching Olandria handle that situation with so much grace, while still being picked apart online for her looks and being called too much for finally speaking up, yeah, that didn't sit right with me at all. But despite all of that, I'm glad that Olandria ended up with someone like Nic. Even if it didn't start off with butterflies or fairy tale vibes, it turned into something genuine, and that's really what matters. She got someone who appreciates her and actually puts in the effort. And after going through everything that she went through, she truly deserves it. This whole season just reminded me that representation isn't just about who's casted on these shows. It's about how their stories are told, how they're treated, and how the audience perceives them. Because these aren't fictional characters. These are real people navigating love, friendship, and conflict in front of millions. And when we as viewers bring our own biases into the mix, whether we realize it or not, it can have real consequences. So I hope this video encourages people to take a deeper look, to question their gut reactions, and to ask why they sympathize with one person and villainize another. Because sometimes the issue isn't the person on the screen, it's what we've been conditioned to believe about them.